Researchers have actually found that the strongest predictor of long-term relationship dissatisfaction, it isn't constant fighting.
No, and it's not money either.
Exactly. It isn't a lack of communication or, intimacy. It is something much, much quieter. It's when one partner slowly loses their sense of self.
Wow. Yeah, that is heavy.
It is. And the terrifying thing is, it never happens overnight.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen because anyone forced you into submission. It just happens little by little.
Right, just a gradual fading.
Yeah, like one hobby disappears. One friendship fades into background noise. A personal dream gets postponed for the greater good of the couple.
Because it's just easier.
Exactly. An opinion stays unspoken because it's just easier. Until one day you look in the mirror and you think to yourself, I love this person I'm with, so why do I feel like I'm grieving?
Why do I feel like I'm missing someone?
Yes. And the answer is incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because the person you are missing is you.
I mean, if that is where you are today, if you are listening to this and feeling that exact ache in your chest, missing who you used to be, it does not automatically mean you are with the wrong partner. It doesn't mean your relationship is toxic or, fundamentally flawed.
That is such a relief to hear, honestly.
Right. Sometimes it simply means you have been deeply, earnestly investing in your relationship while quietly withdrawing from yourself. Those are two completely different problems.
And confusing them is exactly why so many people either stay stuck in this numb state forever,
Yeah.
or they walk away from someone they actually deeply love.
Yes. So the ultimate goal of this episode is to learn how to stop making a false choice between your relationship and yourself.
Welcome to another episode of the Living Better podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Kate. We want to warmly welcome you and, really thank our amazing community for your continuous support.
Yeah, we appreciate you all so much.
We do. And if you find value in these deep, vulnerable conversations, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.
So I think to really understand how to get yourself back, we first have to unpack one of the most pervasive, honestly damaging lies we are sold about love.
Oh, the romanticized ideal.
Yeah, this idea that real romance means becoming like one single entity,
Yeah.
one life, one identity, one shared calendar.
One heavily curated social circle.
Exactly. You start sharing routines, weekends, vacations, your life goals. I mean, you share Netflix passwords, you share custody of the dog.
Every single aspect of life becomes a joint venture.
Right, and it sounds so incredibly beautiful in the movies until you wake up 5, 10 years down the line and realize there is absolutely no you left inside that towering structure of we.
I completely see how easy it is to fall into that trap, but let's push back on the core premise for a second.
Okay, push back.
Sharing a life, sharing the dog, having a joint calendar, that isn't the actual mechanism of identity loss.
Wait, really?
No. People don't lose themselves simply because they become part of a couple. The erosion happens because of a very specific internal shift.
Okay, what kind of shift?
It's what happens when the vital question, what do I need right now, just completely evaporates. And it doesn't just disappear, it gets actively replaced by questions like, what do we need?
Oh, or what does my partner need?
Exactly. Or, most dangerously of all, what keeps the peace?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that hits hard.
Right, because when you spend years prioritizing what avoids conflict over what you actually need, your brain literally stops generating preferences to conserve energy.
That makes total sense.
I'll give you a real-world example. A few years ago, I met a woman, let's call her Emma. Emma was in a phenomenally healthy marriage. Genuine love, no dramatic betrayals, a great partnership.
Like absolute couple goals from the outside.
Yes. But one afternoon we were talking and she just started crying and said, I don't know what music I like anymore.
Music, like she just forgot.
Well, at first I assumed she just felt out of touch with pop culture. But she meant that for nearly a decade, she had only listened to whatever her husband put on
Wow.
road trips, at dinner, while cooking. His preferences became her default audio landscape. And not because he demanded it, he wasn't controlling at all.
It was just easier.
Exactly. It was simply because in year 2, she didn't want to bicker over the radio, and by year 8, her brain didn't even bother forming an opinion.
The irony there is, I think a lot of people would hear that story about Emma and immediately just brush it
Oh,
off.
for sure.
They'd say, who cares? It's just Spotify. Just make your own playlist. It's not a crisis.
Right, but the music is just the symptom, not the disease.
Exactly.
The music was undeniable evidence that somewhere along the way, that internal dialogue of checking in with herself had just completely flatlined.
And it really highlights how sneaky this kind of identity loss is. That's why I always think of identity like a coastal cliff.
Oh, I like that visual.
Yeah, because a cliff doesn't usually fall into the ocean all at once in some massive theatrical earthquake.
Yep.
It erodes. It happens through 1,000 tiny waves of convenience.
It is so true.
You skip the gym on a Tuesday because it's cozier to stay in bed together. You cancel on your friends on a Friday because your partner had a hard week and they just want to chill.
Or you watch the sci-fi show they love instead of the documentary you wanted to see.
Exactly. You postpone your personal career goals until next year because it's just easier for the household. And none of those micro surrenders feel catastrophic in the isolated moment.
In fact, each decision feels entirely reasonable.
It feels loving. But when you stack 5 years of those reasonable decisions on top of each other, suddenly you have engineered a life where you barely exist as an individual.
1,000 tiny waves of convenience is a brilliant way to phrase it. But if we follow that logic, we run into a philosophical wall.
Which is
Does that mean all sacrifice is toxic?
No, absolutely not.
Right. Healthy love fundamentally requires sacrifice. Parents sacrifice sleep, friends sacrifice time, partners sacrifice convenience.
It's part of being a good person.
Exactly. The core issue isn't the act of sacrificing. The devastation happens when you sacrifice without replenishing.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's elevate this beyond just a basic transaction. Think of your identity, your vital life force, as an emotional ecosystem. Or, to make it even simpler, a bank account of selfhood.
A bank account, okay.
Every time you give away a piece of your autonomy to accommodate your partner or smooth over a potential conflict, you make a withdrawal.
Right.
If you keep withdrawing every single week without ever making a deposit, your psychological account doesn't just go to zero, it goes into severe overdraft.
Yeah, the human body's physical response to an emotional overdraft is numbness. You just feel flat.
Exactly. For that ecosystem to survive, every time you give away a piece of your autonomy, something has to be deposited back.
Like what?
Joy. Solo curiosity, uninterrupted energy, a
Yeah.
personal pursuit. If nothing goes back in, the well simply runs dry.
That distinction really clarifies the confusion so many people have. Because nobody walks around asking themselves, am I engaging in toxic self-sacrifice?
No, never.
They walk around asking, why am I so incredibly tired all the time? Why don't I care about anything?
Yes.
But here's the trap. The moment someone listening has this massive, aha realization, the moment they see their account is overdrawn, the pendulum violently swings to the other side.
Oh, it really does.
They go from totally compliant to fiercely, almost aggressively independent.
Which is an understandable defense mechanism, but it requires us to draw a hard line between selfishness and self-abandonment.
Because they aren't the same thing.
Not at all. Selfishness operates on the belief, my needs matter infinitely more than yours. Self-abandonment, which is the silent relationship killer we're unpacking today, operates on the tragedy of my needs don't matter at all.
And neither of those extremes can sustain a healthy dynamic.
True, healthy love dictates that both people deserve to exist fully in the same room.
Okay, let's make this actionable. Let's say someone listening right now is realizing their account is completely bankrupt.
Okay.
My immediate instinct, and honestly the instinct of almost anyone who values communication, is that the very first step has to be immediate transparency.
Oh, boy.
Wait, hear me out. If
Yeah.
I am in a healthy partnership, I need to go to my partner tonight. I need to sit them down and say, listen, I feel like I've lost myself. I've disappeared.
I have a feeling we are going to disagree on this.
But you have to tell them right away so you can start rebuilding as a team. because if you withhold that, you're living a lie.
We have a very serious disagreement on this point. I adamantly push back against that approach.
Really? Why?
In fact, rushing to dump this on your partner is the exact moment a lot of people accidentally detonate their relationships.
You genuinely believe keeping an existential crisis a secret from your spouse is the better tactical move.
Let's untangle secrecy from preparation. It's not about keeping a malicious secret. Transparency is fundamentally good, but transparency without clarity is just weaponized confusion.
Weaponized confusion. That's a strong phrase.
Think about it. If you walk into the kitchen tonight and tell your partner, I don't know who I am anymore, what on earth are they supposed to do with that information?
Well, listen, support you.
But you are taking a massive, formless, terrifying emotion and just dropping it in their lap. You're unfairly making them responsible for fixing a feeling that you haven't even taken the time to decode yourself.
Okay, I see the logic there. You're basically handing them a broken puzzle, but you don't even have the picture on the box.
Exactly. You cannot ask your partner to help rebuild an identity when you haven't even started figuring out what the foundation looks like.
Silence is incredibly dangerous, too. You can't just operate in a psychological vacuum for months while your partner is left in the dark, wondering if their marriage is disintegrating.
I agree, which is why finding the middle ground here is paramount.
So what does that look like?
The goal of communicating this isn't to ask your partner to fix you. The goal is taking absolute ownership. When you do sit down to speak with them, the framing changes everything.
Give me an example.
The conversation shouldn't be, you made me disappear, or this relationship suffocated me.
Right, because that's just an accusation.
Yes. The conversation needs to be, I've realized that I have been letting myself disappear, and I am taking ownership of that. I am beginning the journey to find myself again.
Wow. Taking ownership changes the entire temperature of the room. It totally diffuses the defensiveness.
One version inherently assigns blame and demands they solve an impossible riddle. The other version takes radical ownership and simply invites them to witness and support you while you do the hard work.
So if we aren't relying on our partner to play therapist and rebuild our identity, how do we actually execute this? How does someone listening right now start the process tonight?
The word you just used earlier is the perfect framework excavation.
Excavate.
Yes. You don't need to panic and try to invent a brand new, wildly interesting personality. You simply need to excavate the one that got buried under all those years of micro-surrenders.
And the most common tragic mistake I see is people sitting around waiting for motivation to strike.
Oh, the waiting game, it never works.
They say, well, when I finally feel like myself again, then I'll sign up for that pottery class. Or when I have my energy back, I'll call my old friends.
But psychology tells us that action precedes identity. Identity does not return before you take the action. It returns because of the action.
Right. You cannot wait to feel like yourself.
You have to ask a highly specific question. What would the version of me I miss actually do this week? And then you go do it, even if it feels completely mechanical at first.
It's the classic psychological truth, right?
Yep.
Confidence follows evidence. You have to give your brain evidence that you actually exist.
Yes.
And to make this incredibly practical, without requiring someone to uproot their whole life, there is a framework that completely shifts the dynamic. The 30-minute rule.
I love this rule.
Because people wildly overestimate what it takes to reclaim their identity. They assume they need a month-long solo retreat to Bali or massive, uninterrupted weekends of solitude.
Which is just not realistic for most people.
No, you don't need that. You need 30 minutes a day dedicated to something uniquely, unapologetically you.
And that means no partner in the room, no kids asking for a snack.
Exactly. No mindless scrolling on social media to numb out. Just 30 uninterrupted minutes for reading, walking, sketching, staring at the ceiling. I mean, whatever makes you feel unmistakably like a separate human being.
We also need to be brutally honest about the psychological barrier that hits the second someone tries to implement that 30-minute rule.
To kill.
The immediate crushing reaction is guilt. People don't actually lack 30 minutes in a 24-hour day. They lack the internal permission to claim it.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
We feel this profound guilt because we have been conditioned to falsely equate constant availability with love.
Oh, that is so true.
Because culturally, we are taught that boundaries are a form of rejection. We convince ourselves that being endlessly, limitlessly accessible to our partner proves our dedication.
But constant availability does not create intimacy. Presence creates intimacy.
Beautifully said.
And here is the hard truth. If you never leave yourself alone to go recharge your batteries, eventually you lose the capacity to be emotionally present anyway.
You end up just physically occupying space on the couch, but psychologically, you're a ghost.
That distinction between availability and presence is huge, but taking those 30 minutes creates a completely new practical problem.
It shakes things up.
Right. If you have spent 5 or 10 years being endlessly available and suddenly tonight you close the bedroom door to read a book alone, your partner's going to feel that shift.
Absolutely.
It's going to shake up the relationship's equilibrium. So how do you navigate a partner's reaction to this sudden display of independence?
I constantly come back to what I called the house metaphor.
Oh, I love this concept.
Imagine your relationship as a beautiful house you've built together. A lot of people operate under the delusion that true love means living in the exact same room of that house for 50 years.
Sitting on the same sofa, looking out the same window.
Having the exact same recycled conversations day after day. Inevitably, that room is going to start feeling suffocatingly small and stale.
Not because the house shrank.
Right, but because neither of you ever bothered to explore the rest of it. Healthy, thriving couples don't imprison each other in one room. They leave the room.
They go outside.
Yes, they go into the world, they learn something new, they explore different passions, and then they bring back a new story, a fresh idea, or a different perspective to share. That circulation of outside air is what keeps a relationship alive and breathing.
We really need to attack the dangerous myth that social media sells us on this exact point.
Oh, please do.
Because platforms have heavily romanticized this toxic idea that the healthiest couples do absolutely everything together.
It is everywhere.
The algorithm pushes videos of couples who share every single hobby, who work out together every morning, who run every mundane errand side by side.
It's pitched to us as the ultimate form of romance.
But scientifically and psychologically, it's a fast track to dependence disguised as closeness. I mean, if you physically cannot go to the grocery store without holding hands, you aren't close. You're enmeshed.
Enmeshment is the perfect word for it.
And this leads to a counterintuitive, definitely uncomfortable truth about making relationships last. Sometimes, the absolute healthiest thing you can do for your relationship is to disappoint your partner.
Oh, that is going to make a lot of people squirm.
I know.
Disappointing a partner feels like failing at love.
It feels terrible.
Ooh.
But track the logic of what happens if you don't.
Okay.
If every single decision you make in your life, from what you eat to who you see to how you spend a Saturday, is carefully calculated to completely avoid disappointing your partner, where does all that unexpressed disappointment go?
It doesn't vanish.
Exactly. You absorb it. You swallow it all. If they want to spend the entire weekend watching television, and you genuinely wanted to go to a photography workshop, and you stay home just to keep them happy, you just absorb the disappointment.
And swallowed disappointment ferments into resentment.
Every single time. Healthy relationships are not built on the impossible task of perfectly avoiding disappointment. They are built on the resilient ability to survive disappointment without making it mean someone is being abandoned.
The idea that avoiding disappointment creates resentment is so crucial. It perfectly sets the stage for a framework that helps navigate this newly reclaimed independence.
Which framework is that?
I call it the updates not permission framework. Listen to how you communicate your autonomy to your partner. Asking for permission sounds like, Is it okay if I go to dinner with my friends on Thursday?
Right, which sounds like you're a teenager asking your parent.
Exactly. Giving an update sounds like just letting you know I'm going to dinner with my friends on Thursday. I'm really looking forward to it.
That feels completely different.
Because one phrasing assumes your adult life requires your partner's signature of approval. The other phrasing assumes your life simply deserves respectful communication.
It is about mutual respect, not secrecy.
Exactly. Healthy adults in an egalitarian partnership do not ask permission to have their own identities.
It feels incredibly liberating just to hear the difference in those two sentences. But I can easily see how someone could implement this, go to that dinner on Thursday, feel amazing for a week, and then slowly backslide into old habits of enmeshment.
Oh, it happens all the time.
It feels like a diet where you bounce back to the baseline. Reclaiming your space for a week is a great start. But how do we make sure this isn't just a passing phase? How do we integrate identity as a permanent fixture?
Well, the first step to permanence is managing expectations. You have to recognize that the goal is not to somehow morph back into your 25-year-old self.
So many people try to do that.
They get trapped chasing the ghost of who they were a decade ago before they got married or had kids. But that version of you, while fun, lacked a decade of hard-earned wisdom.
So what's the actual goal then?
The true goal is integration. It's about preserving the core of those old passions, the adventurous spirit, the creativity, while embracing the maturity, stability, and emotional intelligence you possess right now.
That is a beautiful way to frame it.
And to make that integration permanent, you have to utilize an identity calendar. If you open your phone and look at your calendar right now, it tells a brutally honest, objective story about your life's priorities.
Yeah, you see work meetings, school pickups, dentist appointments.
Dinner dates, exactly. But where do you exist on that calendar simply as you? Not as a spouse, not as a parent, not as a dedicated employee.
Usually nowhere.
Right. If you aren't physically scheduled on your own calendar, your time will always be sacrificed to whoever asks for it first. You need one non-negotiable weekly appointment purely for personal restoration.
And treated with the same respect as a meeting with your boss. You know, to really drive home whether or not you need that calendar invite, there is a simple, somewhat confronting test you can run in your mind right now.
Ooh, what is it?
Imagine your partner was sitting at a coffee shop and had to describe you to a complete stranger. What would they actually say?
That is a vulnerable question.
Would they just list a resume of your roles? Like, oh, they're an amazing spouse, a deeply loving parent, a really hard worker.
Which are wonderful, noble things.
They are. But would they know what actually fascinates you right this second? Would they know what book you can't put down? Or what weird topic you're researching late at night?
Wow.
Because if all that is left of your identity are your responsibilities to other people, you have slipped into the background of your own life.
And what's really tragic and shockingly common is when both partners have quietly disappeared over the years.
Yeah, they're both endlessly sacrificing themselves for the other.
Both profoundly exhausted, both secretly feeling less alive. But the absolute beauty of that situation is if you can both sit down and admit that out loud, you get to solve it together as teammates.
It's not a battle against each other.
No, it changes the entire narrative. You aren't pointing fingers across the table saying, you changed, you ruined me. You're looking at the problem together saying, we have both stopped investing in ourselves to keep this ship afloat. Let's fix this.
Because the biggest paradox of this entire conversation, the fear that keeps people frozen, is the belief that finding yourself will somehow ruin or threaten your relationship.
When in reality, becoming more you saves the relationship from a slow death by stagnation.
Exactly. Your partner doesn't want to connect with a rigid checklist of household roles. They want to reconnect with a vibrant, curious, living person.
The home you built together wasn't gone. The path to get there was just totally overgrown.
And keeping that path clear is a lifelong, intentional practice. Identity isn't a treasure chest you find once, unlock, and put on a shelf forever.
No, just like physical fitness, it requires consistent, deliberate maintenance.
You don't go to the gym for a month, get in shape and say, great, I'm fit for the rest of my life. You have to keep lifting the weights.
So true.
To maintain your psychological fitness, I highly recommend adopting a weekly check-in. Ask yourself 3 simple, clarifying questions every Sunday evening.
I love routine building. What are the questions?
First, what gave me energy this week? Second, what quietly drained my energy?
That second one is huge. We ignore our drains constantly.
Always. And third, did I make at least one decision this week that reflected the individual I want to become?
Pairing that check-in with a quick relationship audit is a game changer. Take just 60 seconds and finish these 5 sentences without overthinking or filtering yourself.
Okay, what are the sentences?
I've stopped. I've been postponing. I've been pretending. I miss and I've been waiting for.
Oh, that is powerful.
The spontaneous answers your brain provides will leave a clear trail of breadcrumbs right back to the parts of yourself that are starving for your attention. We've spent a lot of time today talking about looking backward.
Right. We've talked about trying to excavate and rediscover the pieces of yourself you left behind along the way. But the true, ultimate catalyst for transformation isn't just looking in the rearview mirror and asking, who did I used to be?
It requires something deeper.
It is having the raw courage to look at your life right now and ask a much more uncomfortable question: who am I becoming without even noticing?